Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Cool Whip, and I have an interesting video for you today. Today I'm doing a comparison build, or a comparative analysis of what build is the most effective build to use for the new Voidwalker subclass, which happens to be extremely powerful. And no, I'm not saying that either of these builds are the most powerful. What I'm actually trying to say is I'm just making a comparison video to see which build I like the most and why I like it the most, and I thought, hey, I'd include you guys in the process. So in the background, you'll see that we are looking at the Nova class, the new Nova Blink, Nova Warp subclass, the Attunement of Fission, and its perks, what we're going to be using for the most part. Everything pretty much stays the same throughout this video, so we can do like a comparison across the board. At least that's the idea. So what we're going to be looking at here is Eye of Another World. I got a pretty decent roll on this, and the emphasis of this entire build that we're going to be looking at first is a grenade cooldown build. You can use whatever you want, but the point of this one is to synergize with Enhanced Ashes to Assets and the handheld Supernova. So Enhanced Ashes to Assets gives you a little bit of an extra bump on top of the Ashes to Assets perk in your super for every grenade kill that you get. The handheld Supernova counts as a grenade, and the handheld Supernova one-shots people within a reasonable range. So I'm going to be pairing that with another piece of armor that has Enhanced Momentum Transfer. Enhanced Momentum Transfer recharges my melee every time I deal damage with my grenade. So I'll be getting super energy and melee energy from using my grenade, and then I have a 5-stack cooldown with the initial inherent perk of the Eye of Another World factored into it for the grenade mods. I am using a shotgun, so we have special ammo finders. That's not going to matter here in the Crucible, but I do have shotgun scavenger, and then I'm also doubling down on the whole grenade thing and using innervation so that I get more grenade energy on orb pickups. I think you're getting the point here. It's to get a butt ton of grenades, use those grenades to get kills, and facilitate the regeneration of my other abilities as well as my super. So that's the basic look at what we're going to be using. I'm going to be using the Ace of Spades. My chest piece has Unflinching Hand Cannon aim. That chest piece I actually use in a different build, but it has high mobility stats, which is something that I tend to favor. And then this is my Retold Tale, which I'll be testing out. It has Moving Target. I put a target adjusting mod in there to help try and mitigate pellet spread deviations, and then it also has a full auto trigger with rifle barrel and or small bore. I'm using small bore because it has a faster handling speed, although I'm not really sold on which one is better at this point, small bore or rifle barrel. It does have a range masterwork and all that kind of stuff. So that's a really good roll for a shotgun, no matter what you pick between rifle barrel or small bore. It's pretty much maxed out on range as far as that's concerned. So, we also might consider comparing Nezarec Sin. Currently, I don't really have a great Nezarec Sin. This is the vendor version from Xur. It has hands-on, which doesn't seem terrible, and hand cannon targeting, which is pretty good with Ace of Spades, but there's no enhanced perks. And I've tested hands-on out in the wild, out in the world. Excuse me, I had to burp. Doing PvE stuff. And it seems okay, but I think that if you're going to be using a super generating type of perk, you want it to be a little bit more impactful than your melee kills, like pump action or remote connection or light reactor, or maybe even heavy lifting if you're in PvE. But I've definitely grown a huge preference towards the Ashes to Assets. I think it's very impactful. I use it a lot on the Dawnblade, or the new Dawnblade, Well of Radiance class. I use it on Well of Radiance quite a bit because I get my grenades back quite efficiently. And I can usually roast quite a few enemies with those solar grenades, so that's a very efficient one. Later on in this video, we're going to be looking at this build. This is the alternative build that we'll be checking out. It's a super mod cooldown build revolving around shotgun synergy. These are both basically catering towards Crucible. So I'll show you what the build consists of. It's a 4 super cooldown build with a grenade cooldown in the other one because I don't have a super mod in a bond. But the first video that we'll be checking out is definitely the Enhanced Ashes to Assets and the Enhanced Momentum Transfer, along with a 5-stack of grenade cooldowns, and then using some other weapons that synergize with the rest of the build, like a shotgun and a hand cannon. Now, word of advisement. There are periods of time where my video does stop very briefly. That's so that I can line up the next recording, because I did it in game. The capture on the Xbox doesn't allow me to record past 10 minutes, and I don't have any capture cards or anything like that. So if you see the video halt for a second, I promise you didn't miss anything. And also, as a side note, if you see me floundering around, missing my shots, basically being what is called a potato, put up with it, please. I highly recommend that you just use these videos as a learning tool for what you might want to do in the future, and don't necessarily judge me on my level of skill. I'm not the best player in the world, but I really enjoy making content, and that's what this is really all about. So let's just get into the game, and we'll see how this all works out. I guess I'll just do like some commentary here and talk about the build that we're working with. So far, I think that the Nova Warp subclass is pretty efficient. So there you can see in the bottom left-hand corner how much super energy I now have after those 2 kills. It's pretty effective. Yeah, but to continue on, I think that the new Attunement of Fission is very strong currently in the sandbox. It's a roaming super, and it is also extremely evasive. And if you're using Blink, you can line up your kills pretty well and pretty effectively, and it's really hard for people to really lock onto you with that. This is a really bad push, by the way. I had high aspirations and no skill to back it up. So I think, to continue on the topic of Attunement of Fission, it's very strong. Handheld Supernova is a rocket went right past me. Very, very powerful utility tool to have in your belt. The one exotic that I don't have that synergizes with this subclass in particular is the Controverse Holds. I hear that those are extremely strong. And on paper, I can see why they're extremely strong. You get an overshield while you're charging grenades, and your grenades charge faster, and then you get a little bit of extra ability energy back. So that might allow you to take a step back from the 5 cooldowns on your grenades. I think I potatoed that one. Yeah, definitely potatoed that one. That guy was emoting on me all day in this game. Just a heads up there. So I think if you're looking to make an Attunement of Fission build, the one thing that you really need to worry about the most is your handheld Supernova. I know that super cooldown mods are very effective across the board, but because the handheld Supernova is such an effective utility piece, whether you're sniping or whether you're using a long-range weapon like a pulse rifle or a scout rifle, that was a horrible shot, it allows you to have that close-range engagement counter to whatever is pushing you. So in this current meta, having handheld Supernova is very effective against shotguns and other really aggressive weapons like swords, or maybe like a really close-range fusion rifle with backup plan, you know, like the Tekken Force or an Arentil with backup plan, something like that. It's really good against those kind of weapons. Sidearms, it's also fairly decent against sidearms, and a lot of people do like to close the distance with a sidearm and spray you down with whatever they can. And I think that handheld Supernova is a very nice counter to that. Now, there is the sub-note that you can play aggressively with the handheld Supernova, and that's basically what I'm trying to do here, is play as aggressively as possible with the handheld Supernova to generate as much super energy as possible. Because that's what this whole build revolves around. So the more aggressive I can be with the tools in my belt, I don't feel like I should have traded with that guy, but I didn't even get the trade, so that was just an unfortunate engagement right there. I think that if you're maximizing your tool belt as much as possible, and you're building around having perks and synergy between your armor and your abilities, then you really have a lot of ability uptime. You have the potential to engage the map in ways that the rest of the map isn't really able to engage in. And one of the things that I really enjoy in this current expansion is the ability to fine-tune my builds with ability synergy and so on and so forth. Now, I know that there is a fairly large community of people that are preferring to have weapon synergy perks with their build, and I think that that's great. I know that the enhanced targeting perks are extremely effective when you're using something like a sniper rifle, because the sniper rifle's hitbox is kind of not that great. By the way, I did kill that guy with a shotgun in that last engagement, and that was one of the video cutoffs that I was telling you about. But as far as the enhanced targeting or enhanced dexterity for weapon synergy, enhanced perks for unflinching and so on and so forth, those are very effective. The one thing that you can really do, since the chest pieces don't have any ability synergy for the most part, as far as I know, they're all weapon synergy pieces, just hunt for an enhanced unflinching of whatever it is that you're looking for, and the targeting kind of is not generally considered the most requisite for winning a game, so long as you have a pretty decent gun skill. As far as that's my opinion. I know that in some cases having an enhanced targeting will help, and believe me, I've been on the receiving end of somebody that has like an enhanced targeting for a sniper rifle, and it's just like headshots all day. So that's kind of hard to pass up when you're looking and fiending for those sniper headshots, because they feel so good and so rewarding, and they're very challenging to get now with the hitbox being so small on sniper rifles. By the way, you can kill yourself with your handheld supernova there, so keep that in mind. You can do it. You can do it a lot. It's very easy. It just takes one of those scatter projectiles to hit something very close to you, and you will kill yourself with it, so that's another heads up. But as far as the unflinching is good, in my opinion. The targeting, I'm not really sold on, but the real benefit that you get with the targeting perks is not just aim assist. It's not really just that. It's hit registration, which is a good thing, but it's also your aim down sight speed and your handling with that weapon. And from that standpoint, I agree with it, because I like a fast handling weapon. I like my weapons to feel responsive, to feel active, to feel accessible. I like that aspect of it. I don't like feeling like I'm using or manipulating aspects of the game to gain an advantage over my opponents through just aim assist. That to me doesn't quite entirely sit right. Like, if it's something where the sandbox turns into that's the only thing anybody's using, and you literally can't land a headshot to save your life in the Crucible because that's all anybody's using, and the boon that you get from it is substantially like night and day, and I have to use it to be competitive, then and only then will I ever really consider that being something that I would have to do, and even at that point it would be a requisite to be competitive, and I wouldn't really like it that much, because it would be coming from the mandatory status of you have to use this in order to be competitive. And again, I wouldn't like that. But that's not really the case. You can get away with not having those, and I think that that's fine. I also think that the ability synergies like Ashes to Assets and Momentum Transfer and so on and so forth, those have more utility in other activities outside of the Crucible. So those are definitely the more well-rounded perks. Yeah, you can use a sniper dexterity thing or a sniper targeting thing in PvE and you'll get some benefit from it, but I think in the long run, you'll get more benefit from having something like Ashes to Assets and Momentum Transfer and so on and so forth. I think it's the more well-rounded build. So that was the initial build. Now we'll be looking at the secondary build here. This is the... you'll note that my Warlock, as I am circling around him, looks different, because there's different gear on. So this is a super mod build. We have pump action, shotgun reserves. That will be going along with that. This is an Antiope. I thought that this might be a pretty decent pairing with this. I use this Antiope every once in a while. It's really, really good, which is why I don't use it a lot, because it's so good that if I use it all the time, everything else won't feel as good, so it's kind of like a special case weapon. Like, I don't really fail with that weapon. It's so good. So, again, just to go back to it, we have recuperation again for handheld supernova. And with this particular build, that seems pretty decent, because if you get an orb, we don't have the cooldowns to fall back onto, so we do want that recuperation there, even though better already is probably a better thing. But we'll try and play around with consistency here, and for the most part, this build synergizes around having shotgun stuff, and then a passive cooldown on the supers. So I don't have 5 stacks of super mods in this, even though that is the optimal thing. I don't have a 5th super mod in a class item currently, and I think that's because I'm just out of super mods at the moment. So I couldn't really fully commit to my resources to do a exact comparison build across the board, but not all my armor pieces are optimized anyways. So I think with the comparison being kind of like a non-optimized build on both sides, it's a good way to see where things are good and where things aren't. So at this point in the recording, I'm just considering changing up my weapons. This Sanguine Alchemy was a random roll that I got from the Faded Engram from Xur, and it has unflinching pulse rifles. This is the quest line Redrix's broadsword that you get from completing the quest line. It has high cal, chambered compensator, outlaw, and desperado. It's a very good weapon, and pairing it with Sanguine Alchemy feels pretty good, especially because I have unflinching on that. But we'll look around and see what we have. I also have Dynamo on this, and Dynamo is something that I'm kind of pairing along with the Sanguine Alchemy because Sanguine Alchemy has a lot of utility while you're in your Rift. Dynamo gets you closer to your super, and then we also have some super mods to build up a passive charge. Again, we're using Pump Action, which will generate super energy on shotgun kills, but I will note, and I will note this right now for a very good reason, that Pump Action does not give you as much energy back to your super as one of the enhanced perks. It's a very basic, small bump in your super. So the enhanced perks are much more efficient at doing that, and you cannot get enhanced Pump Action. You can just get Pump Action. In PvE, Pump Action is extremely good if you're just rolling around with like a full auto shotgun. But in PvP, it doesn't feel as proactive. Now, you might say, Nathan, you're crazy, or Dr. Cool Whip, you're crazy. My name's Nathan, by the way. You might be crazy for saying that, because shotgun kills are so easy to get. Yes, they are fairly easy to get, but what they do is they put you at a disadvantage 90% of the time. You have to run in, you have to go aping people, and you're also sparse on ammo. In PvE, you're not really conflicted with ammunition. You have the advantage of always having ammo around you. You can build your setup so that you have special ammo finders, scavenger perks, all those kinds of things, and then you can fully synergize in PvE with a shotgun and get away with having something like Pump Action. But you do not get as much energy back as you would with something like an enhanced Ashes to Assets perk, and despite having to fight the ability uptime with an Ashes to Assets build, so to speak, because you just are based on how much ammo you have in your shotgun to generate super or additional super energy from kills, the amount that you will gain from having the Ashes to Assets and lining up your grenades well will far and away supersede the amount of energy that you can get from a shotgun in most cases. Okay? So those are some really quick thoughts on that kind of thing. I will say that I found the second build feel a little bit more finicky. Despite having the passive boon to super and recharge rate, I found the passive charge of the super to be really non-impactful. I didn't really like it. I don't like the feel of using the super mods in this. I think I would prefer to use something like grenades, like a grenade cooldown or Paragon cooldowns, things like that. I just don't, or maybe even stat modifiers as well, like boosting my stats as much as possible with this particular build instead of using something like super mods. I understand that super mods are good, but to me they just don't feel that rewarding because they're passive and yeah, they boost your super time, but I can do that with weapons and getting kills and playing aggressively and playing intelligently and getting kills like this. That to me is more proactive. I like working for my super. I don't like just being handed my super. And I don't really think that the super mod is the most beneficial thing in the world. So I'll probably be looking for different mods to set up in this gear. If I can find something like Enhanced Dynamo or Enhanced Distribution, that's probably something that I'll be favoring in my legs. Currently I only have Dynamo, but those perks are going to be changed up here in a little bit, and I think that that's a good thing because the way that they are currently set up is extremely powerful, and there's no conditions whatsoever on how much energy you get back. But those are still going to be perks that I'll be looking for, is Enhanced Dynamo or Enhanced Distribution for this Warlock build. And again, just to reiterate what I was talking about earlier, I'm not entirely sold on the super mod build. I respect the fact that in environments maybe like Comp, or when it returns Trials of the Nine, that a super mod could be viable, because you'll have a faster cooldown for your super, and that means that you'll be able to lock out a round, or lock down a match, or secure a win that much faster, do the super stagger strat, where you just pop your super and then generate orbs, and then your whole team just super rolls the next team. That I can see as being the most viable strategy for the super mods to be implemented within. But I don't like the passive feel of the super mods. And that doesn't really have anything to do with the build or how I was playing, as far as like my weapons go, or my armor, or my stats or anything. I have pretty reasonable stats, 616 across the board. That's not terrible in any way, except for resiliency, but I don't really care about resiliency in this current iteration or expansion. I like mobility and I like recovery in this expansion. Previously I liked resilience, and previously I liked mobility, and previously I didn't like recovery so much. But in this expansion I do like a mobility recovery build. But again, I think that the proactive feeling of a build is what makes a build feel powerful, and passively waiting for a super that is just marginally faster than another one doesn't feel as active and engaged in the map. Now this is just a terrible setup. I was trying to line up a headshot quick swap over to the Chaperone and then pop him off the map, but that didn't really line up because he had a shotgun. So that was a bad play on my half. But let's move on and talk a little bit more about super mods. They are very effective, don't get me wrong. In PvE they're pretty strong, and again in the certain conditions that I laid out before, where it's like Trials or Comp, where you're trying to set up a super stagger, or you're trying to lock out a round, or just beat your opponents to the punch of a super, yeah, having a super mod is really good. But again, I think having more proactive mods in your kit will make your kit feel more powerful, despite super mods having a very beneficial impact on the way that your build functions once you hit that 5 threshold mark. I think the cooldown reduction is very, very substantial once you hit 5 super cooldown mods. So again, in certain environments, I think that there is warrant for doing a 5 super cooldown mod build. But I think if you're just playing around and playing to feel power, and playing to have power, and playing to maximize your efficiency in the battlefield, I don't think super mods are the way to go. That's just my opinion. That is just my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me, because I know that supers are freaking strong, especially this one. Nova Warp is ridiculous. Did I miss that shot? I totally missed that shot. That's okay. Slide punch. There we go. Yeah, so feel free to disagree with me on any of the feelings that I expressed in this video, but the comparison video is an interesting format that I might continue to do in the future. I think the previous build felt a little bit better in terms of ability uptime, in terms of access to power, access to potential, but I liked the weapon synergy and the overall feel of the second build minus the super cooldowns. So if this build was more oriented around the handheld Supernova, then I'd probably favor something like this build that we're using currently with the Sanguine Alchemies, the bow, and a Chaperone. This is kind of more in my wheelhouse, but I would not be favoring the super cooldown mods. I'd be favoring grenade cooldown mods and maybe stat mods or something like that if I felt so inclined. But I do like the feel of the Chaperone and a bow. It's a very interesting combination of weapons. It's proactive, it's aggressive, it's technical. It allows for some pretty interesting synergy and combo attacks. Now this last engagement just irritates me. I ran out of shotgun ammo. My Axiom Bolt just couldn't find him, and then I whiffed my arrow because I was getting shot from three different angles. That last engagement just was not my favorite. Anyways, I hope you liked the video. If there's any interest in commenting or mentioning how you feel about both of these builds, or what you liked, what you didn't like, feel free to go ahead and do that. Thanks for watching. That's really all that matters. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I hope you enjoyed my insight, and I hope you enjoyed the builds. And I hope maybe I inspired you to check out some different perks that you weren't previously considering. So until the next time, my name's Dr. Cool Whip, and I hope you have an awesome, fantastic, epic, and glorious day. Fight on, Guardian, right? Fight on, fight on. Shine on, you crazy diamond!